Great. So welcome to REI Radio, and with me today I've got Daniel Ryan. Daniel is the Managing Director of Atlantic American Partners. They focus specifically on EB5 as an investment category. I'm not sure whether it's employment-based 5 or whether it's employment benefit 5, but Daniel will share that with us. And also Daniel has been around Africa and South Africa. He's not a stranger here, and he's certainly an expert in the area of EB5. And I just want to say, first of all, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. That's awfully kind of you of implying I'm an expert. I'm experienced with a lot of the intricacies, but I don't think anybody is truly an expert in this industry.
Okay, well, that's interesting. But maybe you can start kicking off, Daniel, and maybe just explaining, what is EB5, and why does it become a good investment? And before you answer, I want you to share with the audience out there. Daniel told me a personal story where he, in fact, to keep himself motivated and knowledgeable, he studies a lot. And I think one of the benefits of living in the United States of America is he is now studying under the Bill Gates Foundation, where he got a bursary. So I thought I'd share that with everybody, Daniel, because I was quite intrigued by that. And so on that, maybe just share us, first of all, what is EB5? And why is it such a great investment?
Okay. Well, EB5 is what you had referenced. It's called employment-based, which is really job creation is what it intends to do. Employment-based -5, which is just the 5th generation of the law.
Right.
So back in 1990, 29 years ago, George Herbert Walker Bush, the first Bush president.
That's right.
At the
Bush
time,
Bush
Bush number 1.
Yeah.
Bush Senior, correct? Yeah. At that time, the economy in America was not doing very well, and he and his advisors came up with an idea, and Congress encouraged this job creation program that is now a law known as EB5. And what it is, it's a program that brings foreign capital from countries around the world to the United States to create jobs in the United States.
Right.
So that's why it's called EB, employment-based.
Absolutely.
So effectively, it's been in place for 28 years, and we have been under the Atlantic American Partners company name. We've been doing it for 10 years now, and we have completed, I don't want to get ahead of myself because to keep the audience engaged, to create these jobs, we focus specifically on commercial real estate investment projects.
Right. Excellent.
Which create jobs. And by law, an investor, for example, South African investors, and I'm in Cape Town right now, for each investor that invests with us, and by the way, we are not the property developer, as you and I have talked. We are a private equity fund manager, part of a 46-year-old investment banking firm, but we partner with property developers, and we act as the watchdog over the money to make sure that the EB5 investors' money is spent properly. Right. And to do so, we choose out of 300 proposals a year, as I've mentioned to you, we select through some very, very stringent underwriting criteria, only 3 investments per year.
Wow.
So you can imagine the type of due diligence we go through.
Absolutely.
Now, why is it that we do that? Is because we always like to have projects that look out for the investor's interest first, because it's all based upon job creation to get the investor's green card. That's the requirement for the green card after the applicant submits their application. The requirement to get the conditional green card and eventually the permanent green card is all based upon us as the sponsor of the applicant and the sponsor of the development to show proof that we have created at least 10 jobs in America per investor. And let me give you an example. We're just about ready to finish construction on a 364 unit apartment luxury complex near Fort Lauderdale International Airport in Florida, in Florida, USA.
Right.
And our job creation per investor is actually 19 jobs per investor versus the minimum of 10. So we're almost double.
Wow.
So that's why we do such due diligence on our projects, because we realize that, you know, people are investing for two reasons. One, they would like to get a green card and come to America. Primarily, Neil, most of these folks want to come to America for their children, and
Yes.
primarily for their children's education.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned to you, it's about school fees.
Absolutely.
No public school fees.
And that's a massive benefit. That's huge. I think that's absolutely. And surely there's got to be some people maybe considering retirement, maybe as well. That's,
oh yeah,
you know.
We find majority of our investors, and I have been marketing. We entered the African market a little less than 2 years ago, and I would say 90% of our clients are coming to us because, especially in South Africa, they are looking for a better quality of life, especially for their children, a little more safety, less crime, better education at no cost.
Right.
And again, in America, public schools are generally high quality at no cost. It's paid through property taxes that's shared by everybody. We kind of spread the risk amongst millions of people all over the country to employ millions of children all over the country at high quality public schools, so they don't pay any school fees. And as you know, I lived in Malawi, Africa, for 12 years. So I'm very familiar and very passionate about helping Africans come to America for a better life.
Excellent. Daniel, maybe you want to share just some of the benefits of EB5. I mean, you mentioned the green card as one, but I think maybe just run through some of them. What do you get? First of all, you're talking about $500,000, and that's going to change.
Right.
I think it's on the 21st of November. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
To $900,000.
Yeah, that is correct.
US.
Correct.
So what do you get for those 500,000? First of all, what are the benefits of EB5? And secondly, what do you get?
Okay. Well, obviously, the number one benefit is obtaining the green card and the ability to bring your family to America, all of your family, immediate family, I should say, all children 21 and under, or a better word for it is under 21 years old. So we recently signed up a Hungarian family that have 7 children. So 9 people were the applicant for $500,000. That's a pretty good low cost per person. And let me you ask what are the benefits. First of all, getting the green card is number one. Secondly, after we go through the process, which takes roughly 2 years for the conditional green card, and at that point the family can move to America, live, work, go to school, do nothing, retire, travel, do whatever they want. 3 years thereafter, once the job creation component has been proven, they'll receive a permanent green card. And thereafter, after a short waiting period, they can then apply for citizenship. if they choose. They don't have to, but most of our clients do choose. And by the way, dual citizenship with South Africa is allowed. And many of our African investors keep the dual citizenship because a lot of our clients, Neil, are business owners and they have businesses here and they want to keep their businesses. So they want to have the kind of the benefit of living in America, coming back and forth to Cape Town, for example, and keeping an eye on their business, not necessarily selling their business, but keeping their business, but having the benefit of kind of of two countries, basically. You live in the United States for 9 months of the year, and you come to Cape Town to keep an eye on your business for 3 months, and you have the best of both worlds. But back to your question. So the benefits are you can come to America, live in America, educate your children in America. Biggest benefit probably for most of our clients.
Yes.
On top of that, what makes our program very unique, and we are one of 2 firms in the United States that do this, is we offer what we call a diversified fund approach to EB5. And each investor becomes a limited partner with us in the fund and becomes a 25% owner of each property that's within each fund. So for example, our latest fund is AAFF3, a $50 million fund that will have 3 properties, and each investor, so we'll have 100 investors because it's at 500,000 each. However, with the 900,000 jump, it'll probably be less now because of that. But the point I'm getting at is one of the benefits of our firm is it's not just that you get the green card, you're actually becoming a part owner in these properties as a limited partner in the private equity fund that we manage. And again, we're the watchdog over the developer. So what does that mean in practical terms? That means when we build let's say we build a Marriott hotel for a certain amount of money, and when we sell that Marriott hotel 5-6 years later, the EB5 investors share in the capital gains as a 25% limited partner. So most, that's unique in the industry. Most EB5, and you know that from your knowledge and background, most of the most EB5 entities around the US are really developers hiding as EB5 companies. We tell people up front, we are not a developer. We want you to know we're not the developer because the developer is interested in the developer. They're not necessarily interested in the best interest of the investor. They're more interested in the bottom line to the developer, and they're using the EB5 investors' money to fund their projects. And in many cases, the developer has 0 equity or maybe some created land equity that they're calling equity, but no real hard cash equity. So and to us, that's really just poor underwriting.
And I think, maybe just to elaborate a little bit on that, I mean, you would need to have an asset manager, somebody that can analyze these assets to make sure, because you mentioned you only select 3 out of 300 that's presented to you. So you really have to cherry pick the best.
Yeah. Well, like I've mentioned to you, we have a staff of about 5 people that all have MBAs, certified financial analysts. One's an MBA and a lawyer. And these people look at packages every day, each and every day. And they scrutinize it. We use some of the most up-to-date, sophisticated financial models to weed these proposals out quickly. So, when we receive the 300 proposals we receive each year, we'll get a package in, and within 1 or 2 days, we can say, very quickly, this is, we have kind of like a standard saying, if we can't make a fairly good determination that it has even a slight possibility, we should say no within 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
Because you can see it. You can see it in the numbers. You can see it how it's presented. And our people are pretty astute at looking into the details of where developers try to play with wording and numbers and how they try to fluff things and make things look more rosy than they truly are. And we always kind of take the approach, okay, we're going to go in on a worst case scenario basis, preparing for recessions. Right. And we look at these things, you know, and so we have a busy staff of 5 people that do that all day long and come running to us. Out of the 300, they probably, within 48 hours to 72 hours, they probably, you know, if 10 come in a week, within that week, you know, 8 of them will be told no thank you. 2 of them might be said, we're going to look at it further. We do a little more due diligence, and maybe out of those 2, 1 of them makes it through to the next stage. And right. Within another week or so, if it makes sense, we'll yes. bring it to our investment committee, and we go through, you know, we do a extensive analysis through various stages, and we have, you know, our team is comprised of folks that have combined probably, I don't want to age myself too much, but I know collectively, if we add all of our experience together, it's got to be 150 years combined between all right. of the senior partners.
Okay, so I think key question then, Daniel, related to those investments, I'm going to invest my $500,000. You're going to manage it, and you're going to select the best real estate vehicle possible. Can you maybe just share, first of all, one, how long do you have to lock into this? What's the average sort of period? And secondly, sure. Can you maybe share some examples of funds that have performed and what kind of returns they have received over the years?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we do, we try to line up the timing of the EB-5 green card approval process, which from start to finish, and that means from the initial conditional application to the receipt of the permanent green card, that's generally between 5 and 6 years to get the permanent green card.
Right.
So what we do is we use that as kind of a basis for our investment strategy. So we have kind of 2 columns in our business plan, our business strategy. One is the immigration side, which is a 5 to 6 year period. And then the other is the investment side of the property, which we then say, okay, when the EB-5 investor receives their permanent green card, they obviously would like to get their money back as quickly as possible. That's, again, one of the other benefits is this is not a lottery. This is not a fee program. This is a returnable investment. Right. Unlike some countries like Canada, where you buy a visa, it's a one-time payment. And certain parts of the Australian new program, from what I'm hearing, you pay 1.5 million. And from what I'm gathering, a portion of that 1.5 million is not returned. So right. We return 100% of the principal, $500,000, after all of the approvals are obtained. And when the fund is liquidated, which we tend to plan each fund to be fully built, sold, liquidated within a 6 year period. So it kind of goes hand in hand yeah. with the immigration process.
Okay.
So ideally we have, you know, and it comes in stages, because we have, you know, properties built like today. If we started that building 5 or 6 years from now will be done and ready to be sold. But if we build a property a year from now, it's part of the same fund. Obviously, that applicant is under a different time period for liquidation. So, but per investor, it is basically lined up for them to receive their return of capital back within a 5 to 6 year period. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And we have in our documents, unlike a lot of EB5 companies, we have a written sunset clause. And for those out there that are savvy investors, sunset clause means we have the right as the equity partner to, if we feel that the developer is either not cooperating with liquidating an asset, and we feel that our investors are wanting their money back, or we certainly want the money back for market conditions, we can force the sale. We have the ability, as the equity partner, we have board seats on the board of managers, and we can actually force a sale. And we have a sunset clause that states within 7 years, one way or another, the developer either agrees to allow the sale of the property, or they can keep the property and refinance it, and they can buy us out or pay us off of what our value is at that point in time.
Excellent. Now, Daniel, maybe just share this, what kind of returns are we talking about here? I mean, maybe just share a couple of examples because, for me, it's, it's not only the EB5 where you're getting all the green card and all the benefits, but you're investing in a pretty solid asset class, which is real estate. And you're getting that back. So you're getting all these benefits and you're getting a great return. So maybe just some of the ones, just so that we can get some numbers, some examples of ones that have worked really well.
Yeah. Well, I obviously real estate has such a variable return on investment depending upon market conditions and property types and whatnot. But I will tell you, recently we've had some major success stories, primarily because in the U.S. it's just been economically very, very strong. So recently we have sold a couple of properties we built 3 or 4 or 5 years ago that have stabilized, and these are primarily high-rise residential luxury apartments in urban areas. One example is in Tampa, Florida, whereby it is a high-rise located in a really dynamic area right across from where the cruise ships take off and right across from a 20,000-seat arena. So it's really for the downtown professional workers. They love it. It's 100% occupied. It has a year-long waiting list. And make a long story short, the value, it was built for roughly $66 million, and it is going to close in the very near future for in excess of $100 million.
Wow.
So you can imagine, and that's like within a 4-year period. So there's some pretty significant returns on investment.
Yeah, and I think it's probably good. It's good to, or safe to say, your head office is located in Tampa, Florida. So you've kind of invested in the city where you are located as well. So maybe that's got something to do with a large part of the success, but also not necessarily. You understand the U.S. markets.
Yeah, that's very true. We've invested in Atlanta, Georgia. We have a luxury apartment complex called the U. It's right across from Piedmont Park in the heart of the beautiful section of Atlanta, Georgia, and that's doing very well. And so we've invested in Atlanta. We have a second project that is going to break ground. One of the Marriott signature hotel franchises. We are partnering with a developer to build a Marriott signature hotel in Midtown, they call it Upper Midtown Atlanta. That will break ground in the next 6 months.
Right.
And it's near Georgia Tech University, which is one of the more highly respected universities in America.
Right.
And we've also developed a Le Meridien hotel in Houston, Texas. So we have generally focused on Florida because we like to be able to get in a car and within a few hours drive, see our properties in case, we get surprises from one of our developers, which happens from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
We like to be able to keep an eye on things. And even,
Absolutely.
you know, Texas is only a 2-hour flight, and Atlanta is a, you know, about an hour flight actually from Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
So we generally invest in, you know, 90% of our projects are in Florida because we know Florida and that's our home base. But we're expanding when a good opportunity arises, and we know that the investor. And again, we always look at it from the EB5 investor. You know,
Yes.
if their investment is safe, and we feel that there's a high opportunity for good valuation, we extend outside of Florida.
Right.
And in that case, we've done it to, you know, in Atlanta now twice, and we've done it in we did it in Houston, Texas, and we're actually looking at our next venture is we are getting heavily involved in building and investing in student housing around different areas of the United States near universities, because there's just huge undersupply of quality student housing near universities.
Right.
And we've already built one, and we're getting ready to start our second. So that will be probably our third property in the latest fund that we call AAFF3.
Excellent. Daniel, do you want to maybe just tell us a little bit about, you know, on the 21st of November, there's a window of opportunity. So, I mean, if those people want to take action on this now, they got until the 21st to only pay $500,000 US, whereas it's going up to $900,000 US. So, and there's not too much time. We're sitting now beginning of October right now. We're talking about a month and a half away.
Yep.
Maybe the thoughts around the increase, is it based around demand? What is the thinking to push it up to 900,000? I know it's a government decision, right? It's out of your hand.
Yeah, exactly. It was, you know, we obviously in our, you know, for us, we were hoping they were going to keep it. They review this program each and every year. Every kind of public financial instrument law is reviewed annually in America for entitlement purposes. And for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been rumblings that the EB5 principal amount should be increased, because it's been at 500,000 for 29 years.
Okay.
And if you just take simple inflation, it will be up in the $800,000, $900,000 range. So there's been a lot of push and pull amongst our politicians to increase it, and then they see Australia, Canada, Portugal, you know, all of these different countries around the world that are you know, asking for 1.5 million or 1 million, and then they wonder, well, why in the US, why are we so low? It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Because, you know, the value of coming to America for opportunity and job creation and education is pretty strong, and it's a pretty good return on investment. Just the green card itself,
yes,
for lifestyle. I mean, you know, it's hard to put a percentage of return on investment of quality of life in America. That's one of those priceless things you can't really put a number to. So anyhow, long story short, it's been discussed a lot, and finally they came to a conclusion. They looked at a lot of different scenarios, and Congress and the U.S. Immigration Services agreed and settled on 900,000 as a reasonable number.
right.
So effectively, it becomes the new guideline. Any application submitted after November 21st will require $900,000.
Right.
So what does that mean, though, for your viewers?
Yeah.
I'm meaning, just to kind of put it in context, I've been here for a couple of weeks in Cape Town, and our company have the ability, if an investor, I just got off the phone just a few minutes ago. If an investor has their paperwork organized, we can send them a package. I just sent a client our what we call relevant documents. Once they fill out their pertinent documentation, pass an OFAC check, and which is an international money laundering background check that confirms that they've never been involved in any kind of, you know, money laundering or criminal activity.
Right.
We ourselves, we can prepare a package within 2 weeks. We can
Right.
have a package ready, and we
Wow.
work with some of the best legal immigration attorneys in the world that do nothing but EB-5. And what really takes probably the most time, and sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a week, is the investor has to prove where the source of the $500,000 came from legally.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like salary, sale of a building, whatever it might be. And sometimes it's real simple. My latest client, he sold a boutique hotel out near Stellenbosch, and
Right.
you know, $10 million sale, and he made $8 million net, and he has plenty of money, and source of funds was done in a day.
Right.
So, you know, and other people, it's like a mixture of, I've got offshore accounts here and a trust here, and then it gets a little complicated. But what I'm getting at, Neil, is there's still time,
Yes.
is what I'm getting at.
Absolutely.
If an investor that's listening is interested, there's still probably, if they can get their paperwork organized, the source of funds documentation is the one that is what will hold a person up. But from our perspective, our paperwork is real simple, straightforward. We can email it to them in a day. They can review it, ask questions, get the attorney hired. We can get the attorney and I in our firm. And by the way, we use, both of our attorneys that we use are ironically from South Africa. And they
can't get away from
often,
us.
And well, they immigrated to America, both of them,
Yeah.
you know, 20, 30 years ago. So they've been in America for 30 years, and they're brilliant. And they often tell me how brilliant they are. And,
it sounds like a South African for you.
and I say, well, if you're that brilliant, then make sure you get going and get these people in before $500,000 becomes 900,000. Then you'll be really brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, great, Daniel. That's interesting. Okay, now I think, Daniel, you probably piqued a lot of people's interest here. You know, I'd encourage people to get in touch with Daniel. So, Daniel, thank you very much once again.
Very good, Neil. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure